Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Weldie and Andrew here to talk about I'm going to say a surprising sweep for the men's team down at Arizona State at the Mullet. And then a split over Mankato in a dominating proportion one day and a game you'd like to forget the next. But every Hendricks that we get, we'll take away a Sunderland, I guess, is kind of how the Huskies hockey gods have treated us for this weekend. But we'll talk about how those injuries have kind of fared for us. But, you know, long and short of it here, Andrew, welcome back on the podcast. I want to know, you're here, so I assume you survived the Waymo ride. Everything worked out well, right? No.
I
crashes.
really wish I wanted to report on that. I made an attempt, so I got the app and fired it up for Friday and spit out some 2-mile ride, something like that. So I wasn't expecting it to be an arm and a leg. $35 was the quote I got. I looked on Uber and it was like a third of the price. So I'm like, well, I thought I was I was saving on labor, but apparently not. So I didn't have much hopes that I was going to use Waymo, as it turned out. Saturday after the game, looking for an Uber back. So I didn't even check Waymo. That was like, I wasn't even thinking about it anymore. So I was using Uber. Mm-hmm. It got me a driver. And then it like dumped that driver and it says, we can set you up with a Waymo. And I'm like, oh, it would be the same price. So I'm like, oh, okay. It was a little bit extra weight.
Perfect.
But I'm like, you know what? I did kind of want to check it out. And then you can see on the map on Uber, like the progress of your ride that's coming. And it was like not moving. And the 10-minute wait turned into like 16 minutes. And then it's 18 minutes, it's like not moving. So the robot was stuck, I think. And it was just not to be. So I can't tell you. And I wish I would have been able to tell you how well the robot was able to drive. But
it was probably stuck like in Austin Powers, where it's in the hallway and that cart was just kind of going back and forth. Not
I think it was exactly like that. Yes. So I was frustrated, but I got to meet some lovely human drivers instead. So,
oh, okay.
2026, the human touch is not extinct yet.
Yeah. So that surprises me that Uber would go ahead and hook you up with Waymo.
Had no idea there was like a affiliation between the two. No idea about that. I didn't know that was an option on Uber. That's why I got the Waymo app, which I'm probably just going to delete now because I have no use for it. They're not down in Tucson yet. So I don't know. I guess I'll report back maybe in the future, but not. I wish I would have had a review, but I sadly do not.
Yeah. Exactly. I'd like to know if then you have your own personal DJ, if you just hook up the speakers, or if you're just sitting there in silence and just the driverless. I don't know. I think that freaks me out more than anything else. But I
wonder too. I was thinking,
try it if it ever comes to Minnesota,
could they maneuver like a drive-through window? Like, is there food available to eat in these robo cabs? I don't know if they'd be. I heard it ran over a cat in California and it got some hot water for that. So I'm not sure if they could, especially like the 2 a.m. Taco Bell drive-through. I'm not sure if you want to put a robot in that situation. But it'd be fun to try it out as like a social experiment.
It would be. It would be fun. So, well, not being able to have a drive-through or anything, a concierge service or anything like that, but we do have the ability for whiskey. So I think we should go ahead and just kick the show off, shall we?
Let's do it.
So we're talking about whiskey today.
Whiskey.
Where are we going today? And is it Italy for the Olympics?
It is.
Hint, hint.
It is not. And I probably actually should have dug out for an Italy one. I would assume we have an Italy one. But we do have a Germany, which I learned from the broadcast that they have the most Winter Olympic medals out of any country, which was a little bit surprising.
Because I thought that out of all sports, because I swore there was like a trivia question at the Mullet in one of the intermissions or one of the stoppages that had that same question, and the answer was Norway. So,
which I thought was Norway too, but the broadcast said it was Germany, and I was like, really?
There was a debate.
Yeah, so maybe wherever those get their facts.
Let's just keep it unresolved. Let's not look it up.
Yeah. I suppose we can always ask AI too. We can ask the Waymo. Maybe if there's AI on the Waymo, they could ask us.
Waymo don't know.
Anyway, Waymo, no clue. We got Germany Storkhaus. So we'll go ahead and it smells really good. So already it's kind of shooting up the rankings here. Let's give it a taste.
Just on the nose, it's gotten a couple bonus points.
Oh,
but how does it taste?
That's a bummer. Yeah. That's it's like the wind up and the pitch, and then all of a sudden it's just a sinker in the dirt, like Nick Blackburn. So I am giving
end of his career. Yeah, at the end of his career, those sinkers weren't landing in the dirt. They were landing in the in his 10th row in the left field seats.
Yeah, 6-7 rows back. Yeah. He pitched like the 1-0 game 163. The one that we lost, not the one that we won.
I think you're correct. At Chicago.
And I think it was Tommy had the solo home run, I think, was the only run.
I think that's correct.
It always cracked me up because anytime you talked about after the game, if he got shelled, it's always the same response from him. And I was like, I just overthrew my sinker. And it's just like at a certain time, just stop doing that. You're not a sinker ball pitcher then if you keep overthrowing it, because then it's just a 92 mile an hour meatball that you're throwing up there that everyone's going to hit. But
yes. And that explains his brief career, but it is kind of nuts that he was relied upon. Was that, I suppose because they tied for the division title, they probably didn't have the luxury of shuffling their pitching staff around, but still the idea of having him be your guy on a do or die one and done game is kind of nuts. But he was probably one of their best 2 or 3 starters that year. So, and he pitched well enough. He just hung that one meatball.
Yeah, exactly. And John Danks against Nick Blackburn.
Of the 163 games, that's the one that's not as well known. Like, no. I can't even remember the circumstances prior to that. Like, did they have the lead going into that weekend and sort of blew it? I don't remember how they got into that. Or was the next year, I remember that a little bit more vividly against the Tigers. But anyway, and that was, we're not going to do random box score for the Twins in 07.
I think we did it. That was it. It was a 1-0 game. Jim Thome with the home run, and it was
you
John
Danks
did against Nick Blackburn. So
did Blackburn go? Did Blackburn go the distance? Did he have the complete game?
I didn't. I closed it.
Check the box score.
Well, now I already closed out the box score. I didn't think there was more to divulge.
Gardy would have hooked him. I don't think there's any way that he would have gone.
Gardy would have hooked him after 90 pitches on the 5th inning. I mean, if it
No,
was
he
scoreless,
would have gone
probably not a lot
7.
of hits.
Like Matt Guerrero would have gotten the 8th inning in that game, I bet.
So, let's talk about some hockey, shall we? Oh, did I give a
I
rating for
spelled
this
it.
or no? 6.4. Sorry, I don't know if I gave a rating for the German whiskey. It's a bummer because on the nose it's really good. 6.4.
Okay.
So, all right, a sweep for the Huskies, which has been a little bit of a rarity for this St. Cloud team. I believe this is their first conference sweep of the season.
Correct.
So it's a really big 6 points that we had, and I will be the first, and I'm sure you'll be the second one. I did not think we were going to sweep about a minute and a half left into the third period. Or in a minute and a half left to go in the third period, I did not think we were going to sweep. I was praying for overtime. And then, in the words of Steve Dangle, if you're a goaltender, tend the goal. And turns out that wasn't done for Arizona State when Urban decided to come out and play it, and just a great move by Gross was able to kind of put that away to get the St. Cloud to sweep. You were in the building, not getting a Waymo, but you were there. How was your trip to the Mullet? How was the atmosphere? How was the ambiance? How was the game? Give me a report. What do you got for me?
Good, all around good. First of all, Blackburn went 6 1/3. I just checked. Important detail. But no, it's, this is like the 10th or 12th time. I can't remember how many times I've been to the Mullet, but this was obviously the first time St. Cloud was involved. But
you must have
always
got pulled right after Tomy's home run then, right? Sorry.
I just closed it out, but that would probably make sense. It was probably the 7th inning, and then he gave up the homer, and then he was done. Matt Guerrero did not pitch in the game though. Okay. So it's always a good atmosphere there. I mean, I don't know if they were announced as sellouts, but there were empty seats scattered about. But the atmosphere, especially the student section, always into it. Berzins sort of acknowledged them after the sweep. I thought that was a fun move, bowing to the student section. So
if you were to rate Showstack closing the net at home. Or Berzins taking a bow to the students on the road, which would you rate? We would need Selly
the best. Leader. The best would be the Showstack move on the road. I think we even said like that in Grand Forks would be the creme de la creme. That I don't think it could be topped. They're both good. I think the slamming the net down is a little bit more of a, I don't know, like what do they call it, bulletin board material, fodder. Yeah. And at least Berzins did it at the very end of the weekend, so there was no like coming. If you did that on Friday, that would have been similar. But either way you cut it, it's academic to debate it. It was a nice touch. And I was like you, that penalty that they took, I was expecting. I mean, the range of emotions there was, I really think that. I mean, Arizona State had tied it just a few minutes before that. And so the momentum was clearly in their favor. So it's either my initial kind of worst case scenario is that the Sun Devils were going to score in regulation, 3 points each, clean split weekend. My secondary horror was, this means that we're going to go to overtime. And it's been a while since we've seen the Huskies in overtime. And I really wasn't looking forward to like what kind of lines we were going to see in overtime. So it was like double terror thoughts going on there. And then Loftus, who I think should be commended for a nice little touch pass to kind of set that up. Not too hard. That was just going to be clear down the ice. Urban made that play earlier in the game, if you remember, a similar play where there was a clearing pass that could have been a breakaway for the Huskies, but Urban correctly read it in that instance and cut the pass off and averted a St. Cloud scoring chance. I think that was in the back of his head when he made that play, because he thought that, I did it successfully once already this game. I've got the confidence that I'm going to do it again. But Hall kind of created the pressure, and then Gross was there on the back end, and with nice patience on his part too. Like I can imagine several players would have just like taken their first shot at the net there once they got the puck, where Gross, cool under pressure and held the puck for a little bit, got himself closer to the net, was able to shoot a close range shot through a defender for the game winner.
5-0 on the defender.
Right.
Like that whole play by Gross, I was just like, to have the patience, to be calm and cool and go around the goalie like that, and then skate in, and then slip it 5, like just guts, just like I'm even going through. I don't know how many players in Husky history would be able to make a play in a move like that. I'm sure, there's probably a list of them, but like, I mean, your goalie's out of the net, take a shot, but have the awareness and the hockey IQ that there's not going to be someone coming in from behind to cherry pick you or anything like that. It was just a hell of a play by him.
Yeah, and a great weekend for him. Obviously, 4 goals, 2 of them shorthanded. Gets the winner on Friday. Gets the winner on Saturday. A couple of empty netters on Friday after he scores the winner in the third. But this is what team MVPs do. This is what top 10 scorers nationwide do. Rise to the occasion and come through in clutch situations. We saw that in both games. Hadn't had a shorty this year, Gross, but picks up not 1 but 2 this weekend, and obviously in huge situations. The roller coaster ride continues for me with this Husky season. I kind of put my 2 cents out there last week after the Miami getting swept at the hands of Miami, where I'm like, I've had enough of these sort of emotional swings that I'm willing to stake my claim that I don't think that, this Huskies team is necessarily destined for, the NCAA tournament at the very least, home ice in the playoffs at the very least. Now, this weekend doesn't necessarily erase all of the bad taste from that Miami series. I mean, just look at that. If you have just taken one of those 2 games, you'd be in the driver's seat for home ice at this point. So it's that Miami series, which again, Miami, not that bad of a team, but still just getting swept at home, and losing your last 3 home games, hoping to break that spell this coming weekend coming up. But or pick any number of other conference games where you've been right there, either any of the overtime losses, 1 goal loss to Western Michigan. I mean, you pick any, the Duluth loss at home, pick any number of games where you could have turned an L into a W. And this team, I would be more confident about this team's chances. But so last week, I'm like, okay, I think I got enough evidence that I just don't think I'm not feeling this Huskies team in terms of, let's just say an NCAA tournament appearance. I don't know if that's like changed the situation completely. Like, I still think they're gonna come up a little short, but certainly this helps sway the momentum. You're coming into a series this weekend against a team similar in the situation when you face Miami in CC, where you should have the advantage at home. It's an opportunity to climb the standings, and coming down to the last 4 conference games, putting you in a position that you're still in the hunt. And this is at least a positive. There's been a lot of times even in this last couple of weeks where some of the demoralizing losses could turn into starts of long losing streaks. This weekend at least averted that, turning a 3-game losing streak anything longer than that. So I don't think that Arizona State is that great of a team, pretty evenly matched, and with their losses currently, and I think a little bit of like locker room dysfunction with guys like leaving the team recently, that might have been enough to give St. Cloud the edge over the Devils this weekend. But it's always nice to get wins on the road, sweeps on the road, full 6-point sweeps. It doesn't matter what the opponent is. The fact that they haven't done that in conference play this year is to be commended. I suppose I'll pat myself on the back as well. This is the fourth weekend where they've gotten 2 wins. I mean, you can't really count the Cactus Cup as a sweep because you played 2 different teams that weekend, but also Bemidji State, that home and home, the Anchorage series, Cactus Cup, and now this series. 3 of those 4, I was in attendance for those 6 of those 8 games. So I run the table with me in attendance. I guess the moral of the story there is someone buy me some plane tickets and tickets to the rest of their games this year. They make a regional. Let's make those travel arrangements work because I'm.
Let's rattle the tin can. Let's hashtag get Andrew traveling back.
But yeah, I just
shop it. We got time.
Happy to see him come off the mat after a disappointing weekend last weekend, which could have been like a season defining result. The job's not over, obviously. Still got some work to go, but it obviously gives me much more confidence coming into the C Series, coming off the 2 wins in Tempe than any other result would have.
Yep, and obviously we'll get to previewing Colorado College, but they have not impressed as of late, to be sure. So, but one thing I would really like to point out, I mean, so much can be said about Tyson Gross, but also, and I'm going to go ahead and guess that we're going to talk more about him, but we had the reuniting of the Ernest Road and Thorson line, and I felt that line together, I thought that was a great line. I was happy to see them back, and I think that they controlled play a lot more. Ernest had a 2-point game, I believe, on Saturday. On Saturday. Goal and assist, 4 shots. Road had an assist and 3 shots. They combined also yesterday or on Friday as well for 7 shots, and Thorson added 1 each. So, I mean, they're getting chances, and with them back together on a line, I was excited to see that. But kind of the big one is Tanner Hendricks. So I was a little bit surprised to see him back in the lineup. He was listed as the extra skater. CHN has him listed at playing 14 and a half minutes on Friday and about 12:20 on Saturday. If you were to have me guess how much he played, I would have said about 20 minutes because his time on the ice I thought was just that impactful. So I was really impressed him coming back. I think he fit in just easily. I didn't think there was any type of rust from him. I think his play was kind of eye-opening to be like, I wonder how the season, some of these games could have gone differently with a full set of defensemen, with him taking more time. Because I forgot how impactful, that he could be. I mean, his career is only 9 games in now. But I was like, ooh, this is a very special player that we have.
Yeah, totally agree. I'll get back to the Road Ernest Thorson line because I have some praise as well that I want to reserve for that line in particular. But Hendricks, we've talked about just the defensive struggles of this team and chalking up any number of losses this year based on one too many defensive blunders. Getting Hendricks back, inexperienced freshman, single-digit games played at this level, but you'll look at the depth chart here, or the line chart for these 2 games listed as the 7th defenseman. I'm sure Arizona State was smart enough to know that doesn't really illustrate the impact that he has because he was playing first power play unit time He was playing on the penalty kill as well. So he was getting sexy assignments for being a seventh defenseman. Doesn't really jive with what that role would suggest. And he looked every bit a part of it. I think they are smart to, he's probably not at 100% yet. So it probably is wise to not throw him those 20 minutes of ice time right away. Again, if those CHN metrics are to be believed, always have to throw that caveat out there. But yeah, it's not like this. It's not like this. It's not his fault. Never his fault either. But it's not like this defensive unit couldn't use some shoring up. And we saw a lot of the same kind of mistakes. As Wiley got burned on one play in particular. I remember on Saturday night. The usual suspects have been showing their, liability at times throughout the season. A guy like Smolinski too, which the one thing with Smolinski, scores on Friday. He's put in some enough offense. I think that it weathers the impact of some of his shaky defensive play more so than Wiley does. Just their offensive production, I think, is Smolinski's outperforming him offensively, softens the blow somewhat. But just adding a guy like Henriks to the unit, I think improves the defense as a whole. Now, team health has never been. It seemed like so you get Henriks back. Shostak, who's had his injury concerns of late, he was listed on that line chart on Friday as starting. From what I gather, a flu bug of some sort, sickness. He knocks him out of the game.
That
to the fact that they didn't.
Around.
They must not bring Gray on these plane trips because they didn't have a second goalie dressed, which is weird on the bench on Friday night, at least. He was on the bench. Shostak was on the bench on Saturday, dressed as the backup, but they didn't have any second wave of defense. At least we didn't know what the contingency plan would have been if Berzins would have suffered an injury on Friday. I don't know what would have happened, but so that's another one where, Berzins is called on sort of on emergency short notice to start on Friday. And I thought he played really well on the weekend.
Yeah, he did.
And it's a good problem to have. I was talking with my brother about this weekend, and he's kind of asking, like, who's their number one goalie right now? And it was a good question because you'd like to think that Berzin or that Shostak was kind of emerging after the Omaha win, Duluth win, that shutout, the net slamming occasion. You think that was kind of his emergence, but then he gets hurt in Denver. So then Berzin steps in. They kind of both got a game last weekend. Now this weekend, it was, penciled in that Shostak was going to start. Berzins gets both starts, plays well. I don't know who's going to play this coming weekend's CC. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them get a start. But that's an interesting story to have because usually at this point in the season, team that's in contention like this typically has a number one guy at least, a 60% to 40%. Like if there is a kind of an even split through the bulk of the year, like this is the point of the year where we typically see a guy emerge and get the bulk of the action. That's not the case yet, but that's not to say that Berzins or Shostak is underperforming. And quite the opposite. They're both seemingly playing their best hockey at this time. So that's another one where you get Henriks back, but now we got the goaltending. At least this was an injury related, more a sickness related thing. But so any comment on the goaltending situation before I rave about the road line?
No, you pretty much said everything. It's good to have this, 1A, 1B type of situation. That's why you see what you got earlier in the season. And that's why I'm okay with splitting and, lean one way more this way. But when you get to this point in the season, but now as, injuries or flu bugs or pneumonia or toilet incidences may happen, this is when you can, you feel a little bit more comfortable. And this is kind of interesting because, previous years, when I've looked at Husky goalie tandems that they've had in the past, I still kind of had my preference when it comes to like which one is playing. And kind of at this year, I don't have that. I'm never like, it's, I'm never like upset if it's Showstack or upset if it's Burzins. If they go, I think we have a better chance if this one plays, whereas I did have that kind of opinion in the past. But in this situation, I was like, hey, this is fine. He's starting, let's roll with it, because I feel comfortable with both of them in that, and I think that's a huge thing to have.
So were you a Lee guy or a double D Dan Dunn guy? Because that's like that's the one that immediately comes to mind. We're talking about like goalie tandems.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's others if you want to throw them out there.
I was definitely a Lee guy unless we were playing in North Dakota.
Correct. Or just against North Dakota.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where my where I went. But like there was the Montgomery or Boron was
I was team Boron
way back when. Yep, same here. Let's see, and then I was thinking there was one more that kind of I remember. That kind
was
of
it
jumped
Weasler
out.
and Moreland? Was that a goalie tandem? Again, that predates my time, so I might be getting that wrong. But was Weasler?
Yeah, that predates me a little bit.
Because I'm not sure Weasler. I think he got the tournament start that year. This would have been 03 or maybe 02. The 02 tournament, perhaps. Well, I mean, they made the tournament both of those years, but I don't know if he was he was not like Scotty Meyer, who was getting like 90% of the starts. So there could have been one there. There wasn't anything one like
Lee and Farringer overlap for a little bit.
That was a little bit due to Lee being injured in his last year. Was Lee? It was Farringer and Lindgren. I think they overlapped for 1 year.
Yep, and Farringer got more of the starts that time.
Even though I don't think he had a great year that year, and I think time has proved that Lindgren was the better of the two goalies.
And professional careers too.
Jeff Smith and Renak.
Jeff Smith and Driscoll too. I mean, that was one kind of a tandem as well.
Then Castor and Bassey. That's not too long ago. It's pretty fresh in our memory during the run of this podcast. And that was one where it was basically split until the very end of the season, and then it was Castor in the NCAA's playoffs in the NCAA's. But that one was one where kept us kind of on our toes in terms of who's going to win that battle as the playoffs approach. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of similar to that. But I kind of agree that I don't have like Showstack had a longer stretch of a struggle for him, like in let's say November, where that's when Burzins was getting the most of the starts. But second half, especially, it's been pretty even in terms of who's been. And like I said, I think if it weren't for Showstack's injury in Denver, I think he would probably be the primary starter. Yeah, I was just wondering how this weekend would have played out differently if he didn't catch that bug on Friday, because he would have gotten the start. So they win. Yeah. He's kind of like how Burzins wins on Friday, gets the Saturday start as well. Showstack very easily could have played both of these games. So yeah, it's a definitely a position of interest just because of how it's evolved, not how exactly I was thinking it would evolve. But yeah, Road, I wanted to throw out some praise for that line. I agree. I thought they were the best. Well, first of all, we talked last week about the shuffling of the lines, and we thought it was done to excess. And our suggestions seem to have been followed. clearly because they listen to the show, coaching staff I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, that's what it comes down to. I don't know if Larson does, but definitely maybe like, I don't know. Coasters.
They've got like a
video coach.
Yeah, Lenny Hoffman, who had a successful offsides challenge this weekend, which played a role in the Friday win.
That did.
For the Huskies. But yeah, all joking aside, our suggestion would be kind of just to revert back to what's been mostly successful this season, or the bulk of the season, and kind of keeping it simple. So loading up the top line with Gross, Hall, and Berdovich, and then returning. Now they were listed as the third line. I think they played more like the second line this weekend. The Road, Ernest, and Thorson. Thorson was kind of the one where it's mainly been Road and Ernest together. That third member of that line has been in flux. Gardner had some looks with those two before. Thorson, I'm not sure if you count up the number of games that they were on line charts together, probably that Thorson would have been the other wing the majority of the time. But and Road in particular, and I know that Road just got the one assist on the weekend. It was more Ernest that factored in point production. But Road as that center of that line, I thought was particularly impressive. And as a second power play unit, those line mates as well, I thought applied pressure. I mean, there were times where, you could say that they're not exactly finishing on some of these chances, but there was a couple of occasions, especially on Saturday, where, establishing offensive zone time, creating chances in that zone for their entire shift. And that happened a couple of times on the weekend. And I definitely took notice, even if it wasn't, play that was producing goal after goal after goal. It was producing pressure and establishing momentum in St. Cloud's favor that they were able to capitalize on in future shifts. And so that was definitely something that I took note of. I mean, Road in particular, Arizona State kind of dominated this weekend in faceoffs. Road was the one centerman for the Huskies to have a positive weekend. He had the best weekend of centers when it came to taking draws as well, even better than Gross, one of the nation leaders in that category. So again, these are, with Road and Ernest, freshmen, Thorson just a sophomore. We know how well that top line is doing this year, and they might be doing so well that they're going to be looking at greener pastures after this year in terms of professional prospects. That line of Road, Ernest, and Thorson, that very well could be looking at the future. Kind of how like Gross has developed 3 years into his Husky career as a star of the team and putting himself on the national spotlight. It's not, I don't think it's out of the question to think of this Road, Ernest, Thorson combination as being kind of part of the core of this future Huskies team. And it's good to see them progress this season. And I'm just happy that the coaching staff was able to kind of, return to what had been working for the bulk of the year. Maybe not, they're not putting up 30-point seasons, but you can extrapolate their success at the young age and just like kind of those intangibles I was talking about, creating pressure, and that they'll be able to build on that in future years. So this is an eye-opening weekend in terms of that line and how effective they were for the Huskies.
Yeah, I totally agree. That line was, I thought they were fun to watch. They were dynamic. They created a lot of chances, a lot of buzz, and they seemed to also really frustrate Arizona State quite a bit, which, I mean, Thorson definitely has that ability. It was incredibly good to see. One quick thing I want to say about kind of the defense is I think I am the resident Cooper Wiley fan on this podcast. I get the sense that you don't care for him that much. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh, but as far as like captain, leader, defense go, he'd be a little bit lower on your totem pole. Maybe that's harsh for me to say. Maybe that's a little bit out of bounds. But I will kind of say that this was, I think, his worst weekend that I've seen him play all year. He made a lot of uncharacteristic errors, I think. And there was a couple of issues that I saw, and I was just like, this should be easy plays that this team, like easy passes, easy keeps in the zones, things like that were just fumbled a couple of times. And that's where we talked about in the past, where it seems like it's these blunders that are just like, good teams don't make these blunders. Good players like are able to keep the puck in the zone in these chances, or are able to make these kind of easier passes. But if they get flubbed off or they're in the skates of, that's what kills chances, and especially at this level. So, obviously it was nice to get Hendricks back. But, as far as, Wiley, I thought it was a tough weekend for him. Smolinski had, a couple as well. You talked about that and but his offense has kind of negated that a little bit, which is nice. I thought Loftus, overall, I've been more and more impressed with his game as the season has gone on. So that's kind of what I want to say about the defense. But I just feel some of these simple plays that they should be able to make, that's kind of the Achilles heel of this defense, is that if they're not able to convert those chances, it goes back the other way, and usually that results in a puck in the back of the net.
Agree. I don't think you're too off base on my perception of Wiley. I do put extra emphasis on him because he is, we've got three co-captains
Sure.
on the team. He's the one C wearer among the defensive core. Started the year as the de facto number one defenseman and was quarterbacking the power play unit. So your responsibilities, the spotlight is on you much more so than a guy like Mason Reiners or Thor Bufflin, to name two other members of the defensive core. I think as the season has progressed, Loftus has exceeded I didn't know what to really expect with Loftus coming into the season. Certainly he would have been lower on the pecking order, or at least not, certainly lower on the pecking order in terms of the depth chart. But also, I would have preferred Wiley. I thought that he was more talented and experienced, all that stuff. I think that Loftus has surpassed him in sort of my mental depth chart of the defensemen that I like on this team. Clearly, Henricks, I think, is above him as well. So yeah, I focus on Wiley a little too much because his role on this team is outsized. I expect a little bit more, and maybe that's not completely fair. I'll take I'm trying to do it in good faith, though, and he's definitely a valuable player. I just think he's better suited as like a second pairing defenseman rather than your first pairing defenseman. And as we've seen on the power play, I think Loftus is proven to be a better power play weapon. And a guy like Henricks as well, even coming back.
And Henricks as well, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not even at 100% is getting that playing time as well. And Wiley's still getting his looks on the PP as well, too. So, I hope the best. It's not like I'm rooting against him, certainly, but I've just been more impressed. And even like if you're going to put him up against Smolinski, who they've been paired together for the bulk of the season, like I said, Smolinski, the gap of their offense isn't that wide. It's 18 points for Smolinski versus 12 for Wiley, but it's enough for me to give Smolinski a little bit more of a pass. Again, I'd like to see more cleanliness on the back end when it comes to just avoiding these kind of avoidable mistakes that we keep kind of harping on. But I'm just, and again, I think that Henriks' return sort of elevates everybody, or at least takes the pressure off of everybody too. So I think hopefully that can, help improve all of the defensemen. But Wiley, he's a guy that, all of your leadership. If things go well, that leadership is going to be praised. If things go sour, the leaders are the ones that you kind of look to first for answers, and to give him credit too. I mean, he's with Gross. Wiley's one of those guys that's always getting the microphones in front of him. Ashawn as well, being the other captain on the team. Those are the guys that, take the tough questions when things don't go well, and they deserve credit for, taking the bullet, so to speak. So, wish him the best. It's more of a realization that I think that a couple of the members of the defensive unit have surpassed him, at least in terms of their value.
Who is your pal?
Again, I would have loved to give it to Rode, even with just the 1 point this weekend. It's just very difficult to go anywhere other than Gross with the 4 points, or the 4 goals, I should say, on the weekend. And like we mentioned about just the impact of each of those goals, game winners and shorthanded goals among them. So, and when running out of plaudits to give Gross this season, he's up to 37 points, 18 goals. I think he's, with this 4-goal weekend, I didn't check, but I would assume, because I think he was leading the conference in goal scoring in NCHC games prior to this weekend. I would assume that this just extended that lead. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's putting up like player of the year in conference. He's putting himself in strong competition for that. And this is one of his highlight weekends. And like I said, keeping it simple and bringing the other top line offensive talent back to his line, and talking about Brnovic and Hall. Gross had been in his biggest funk of the season scoring wise. I mean, this was a guy that only a handful of times prior to a couple of games ago there was only a few games that he was held off the score sheet altogether. Then starting with that Saturday game against Duluth at home, goes 4 out of 5 games with just 1 point combined in those 5 games. 4 out of 5 games scoreless, and then just one. He had the 1 goal in Denver in that time. But comes back in a vengeance with 5 points this weekend, including those 4 goals. And it might be in somewhat large part based on the guys that he's got surrounded by him. So I'm glad to see that he was reunited with both Brnovic and Hall, and he pots these goals at opportune times. It just adds to the legend that he's having a great year here. So happy to give it to Gross, even though, like I said, there were definite secondary candidates for this. It's always good to have a healthy competition for the POW, but I am going to gladly give it to Gross this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's Occam's razor at this point. I mean, anytime you have the weekend that he had, 5-point weekend, 2 goals each game, it's going to be kind of a shoe-in for him. So yeah, I'm giving it to Gross as well. He's quite the player to watch. To a guy of his size as well. I mean, he's listed 6'3", 195. That's able to move like he does, have the awareness he does. I rarely see him take a shift off. Him with Hall, I think, is incredibly good. It's and I wonder if he's going maybe a little bit under the radar nationally, or at least like conference wise. But even when I'm thinking like the NCHC, even does it have like a big star offensive? I think it's some of the defense that are putting up some points, but I mean, even like offensively, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm too close to Gross, so I'm biased. Yeah, the plants. I mean, that's kind of.
But even there, it's like we were thinking Max Plant might be like, maybe the leader in the clubhouse for Hobie like at Christmas time. But you look at the scoring wide leaders. I mean, he's in danger of not even being the top scoring guy named Plant on his team. Zamplant's just 3 points behind him. So it's hard to kind of differentiate the two, even though they're both having great years. It would seem more obvious if they were, one was Plant and one was Smith. They weren't brothers. It would have a little bit more separation, but because they are they are brothers, they're related, and they're on the same team. It kind of blends together. But that would be the one. I'm clearly with the just looking at the other leaders in the top 10 nationwide. We just saw a couple of the others, Cruz Lucius and Bennett Shimmick for Arizona State, also in the top 10 for Arizona State among NCHC teams in the top 10 nationwide scoring leaders. But maybe like I said, maybe the star power is more on the back end of guys like Polkamp, all the defensemen that North Dakota have that are putting up great years. You might have a point there.
37 points on the season. What really blows me away, 23.1% shooting percentage, which is just asinine. Usually you see around 10%, somewhere in there, but 23%. Some would say unsustainable, but he's been able to sustain it all year. Just quickly looking, the last 40 point scorer that we had in a season, Cronulla in the 22-23 season hit 40. And then Robbie Jackson in the 18-19 season hit 40 as well. Then there's some
Newell would have too.
18-19, yeah, he hit 47.
Yeah, I did some research. I think it was after the Duluth 6-0 win that. Yeah, do you know who the last 50-point scorer was?
50?
Because at that point he was
LeBlanc,
like I said,
right?
Not that far back.
Really?
This would have been in the 15-16 season.
Oh, Coleslaw.
Gally Coleslaw, your favorite.
Yep.
Yeah, he's at that point. That was after that 6-0 win over Duluth. At that point, he was going to be a shoo-in for 40 points if he kept up his pace, and he would have threatened at 50 if he would have maintained that pace. Now, with that 4 out of 5 stretch where he went without a point, I think 50 is a stretch.
Yeah, that Miami series. Miami was able to solve him.
Yeah, he's just the 3 points away from 40. He could very well get it this coming weekend. So, yeah, Great season and good to see again. St. Cloud hasn't had a guy that was 22-23 was that the Cronulla 40-point season.
Cronulla, yeah.
So just three years ago, but it seems like longer ago, especially based on last year's kind of offensive drought.
I mean, before that, 18-19 for Robbie Jackson.
There's a lot of
18-19 season. We had a lot.
Yep, lots of goals to go around.
Yeah. Who else on that 18-19? Newell, Lazat. So it's been that. I mean, obviously that team was stacked. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about this upcoming series against Colorado College. Last season or last home series, barring any type of playoffs. So we had a giveaway. The trolley giveaway. Did we find a winner?
Old friend Eric C. He becomes our first two-time winner. Of the ticket drawing. And so, I can't remember I think it was the Western Michigan series or ticket. He got that. I believe he won that one back in October. So he'll be going from Norwood Young America, NYA, as he's mentioned before. He actually provided some notes from this weekend. Thought Berzins played really well. Did like the Ernest Road Thorson line. He kind of had the same thoughts as us. Keeping the lines, reuniting those lines and keeping them together is his hope. He mentions too, and I had to check this, they are giving away a bobblehead. There is a bobblehead giveaway on that Saturday game. So he's going to have to get there early enough to get that bobblehead. But
who's the bobblehead?
I don't know.
Or it's the Husky, right?
I think it is. I don't think it's of a player. Maybe you can't do that. Is that like, there really is no NCAA bylaws that they really.
With NIL money now, I'm sure you can have the whole roster as a bobblehead.
Correct. So it's just a bobblehead. It's a head that bobbles.
I had My parents have old Huskies with the anime dog mascot. Has got that bobblehead. I took a picture of that actually when I was there for Thanksgiving. So I also, if you follow my
make good gifts.
Yeah. If you follow my Twitter account, I did also post the picture of me with Angel Schlepper and the Olympic silver medal that I referenced with Jake Baskin. I want to give him a thanks as well for showing up and doing that Olympic podcast too. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't had a chance, check that out while the Olympics are still going on. But it was some really good information, really good talking points, and apparently a Rolodex to go for goalies, which I kind of hate myself for going through, but is what it is. That's where the conversation led us. So, Colorado College here on the docket. Like I said, kind of on the top of the show, their season hasn't gone quite as expected. At least, especially with what they would say or what their expectation was. And, Colorado College has been kind of the sexy pick over the last couple of years to really kind of make a break for it and jump in. But the season, Umberco sitting only at a 907 save percentage. So, I mean, that's where everything is kind of rested in for them. Their power play as well, only at about 16%. So the goal scoring hasn't been there, and the defense has been a little bit more lacking than usual, and they've been a little bit on the downside. They don't have a 20-point score so far yet. Beckner has 19 points. Lindbergh has 18. Weinbergs has 18 as well. So this is a series at home. I think, where you're at, you got to look at this as prime pickings for 6 points, especially if we're ending the season at North Dakota. And then we got that bye week that, again, everyone else is, starting to have their bye weeks at the last part of the season. One team sitting out that last weekend. So we got to make a cushion here. I think the schedule is wrapping up pretty favorably that it will at least have a playoff series. So I think we're going to be in pretty good position right there. But what are you looking forward to against Colorado College?
Yeah, if you have any aspirations of hitting home ice in the playoffs, this has to be 6 points. No going to overtime. We really don't want to see going to overtime anyway, because you're probably not going to win if they go to overtime. But 6 points is the formula for this weekend. Even if they get 3 points, just 3 points will cause them to hop Duluth in the standings. Now, I've got to put this caveat out for the next couple of weeks here, few weeks, because Duluth is idle this coming weekend. That's why just 3 points, 2 points behind them right now. So do the math. 3 points or more, you'll hop into fourth place.
Hold on a second.
This coming weekend.
Yep. That math checks out. Yep, you're good.
Thank you. I have swag when it comes to adding. And that would depend, too, on Miami's results. Miami travels to North Dakota. That's going to be a tough series for them. But Miami just 2 points behind St. Cloud, so they could hop the Huskies. Miami, more importantly, has 2 games in hand with the Huskies. So obviously after this weekend, Duluth will have 2 games in hand on the Huskies. So even if you look at the paper, which I know that no one actually has papers anymore, but you look at the paper next Monday and the Huskies are in 4th place, just temper your glee for a second, because you got to factor in that St. Cloud's going to finish up with the conference schedule before everybody else does. So they've really got to hustle, and they've got to create as much of a cushion as possible to have to sit through that idle last weekend in the regular season for them as everybody else plays with the opportunity to pass them up. And right now it might be the difference between that fourth and final home ice spot. So, I mean, he put 6 points on the board this weekend. And you look at the schedules remaining with Duluth, if you're looking at them as being primed for who you want to overtake for that final playoff spot or home ice playoff spot, schedules, I mean, both these teams, St. Cloud plays CC at home this weekend. Duluth ends their regular season at home against CC. The difference really is Duluth goes to Miami, St. Cloud goes to North Dakota. Obviously, Dakota is a tougher opponent. They're probably like 90% right now, I would say, to win the Penrose. 2 points ahead of Denver, but also with 2 games in hand. 7 points ahead of Western Michigan, who North Dakota has the same amount of same amount of games played as. So I would say that's North Dakota's Penrose to lose at this point, which means that schedule is a little bit more difficult for the Huskies. So you really got to hope for taking care of business this weekend against CC and hoping that Duluth stumbles against Miami and probably against CC, or St. Cloud can, win a game in North Dakota. That would go a long way to it, but it's not going to ahead of ourselves. We just got to take care of the Tigers this weekend. And CC at 7th, it's kind of like I got to give like similar warnings, caveats about Miami. I don't think that CC's like a terrible team. They have been, so they've had basically one half season under Mayotte in which they made a run. It was the year that ended with them percentage points out of that last playoff spot, which Mayotte took with so much grace.
Screwed up the whole pairwise because of it.
Earned a foot and mouth award, Herbie, for that.
It did, yeah.
But so since then, it's just weird. I was looking at the Ustro poll, which there was no other reason to look at the Ustro poll other than to mock it. And I bring it up because this poll that just came out today is the first poll this year in which they did not receive a vote. They've been receiving one vote for several of the last, handful of polls, which is just
how's
crazy
Brown
because
doing?
they've been hovering. CC has been hovering in the mid 30s in pairwise or an NPI almost all season, or at least since the pairwise has firmed up, since Thanksgiving time, roughly. And I don't understand. We saw this last year too, where they were getting ranked well above, like their poll performance was way overperforming their NPI performance, like more than any other team, good or bad, like overrating or underrating. And I would get it if like CC was coming off like their decade run of making the tournament every year, but it's been like 15 years since they made the tournament, so
yeah,
I just don't quite get the hype. I never have really with them. I took them 8th in the conference standings this year, and I'm not too far off. In fact, they have the least amount of regulation wins in conference. They've gone to a bunch of overtime games, including this past weekend against Denver. They went to overtime and lost in a shootout on Friday in the Gold Pan series with Denver. So they go to overtime a bunch. Kind of tells you that they're not really that great of a team, especially 5-on-5 or regulation time, that all these games kind of go to overtime. Struggling to score, that seems to have been their MO the last couple of years. And they've gotten some good Iberico performances. He's kind of like a archetypical CC player because he came into NCAA with a huge amount of hype. And he's had his moments, but as a whole, it's kind of been an underwhelming career for him in the NCAA level, and it's coming to an end here. He's a senior, so and he's been hurt a little bit of late. He got hurt in their North Dakota series a few weeks ago, so there's been some more playing time of late for Jonathan Unger, who's a freshman backup goalie for them. Jackson Unger, I'm sorry, who got both of their games against Arizona State the previous weekend. he was in net for that tie against Denver on Friday, and Barrico got the Saturday game. So I don't know, Unger's, his numbers are good in a small sample size so far, but not sure who to expect. I would expect in Barrico at least one of these games. Wouldn't be surprised if we see the freshman in the other. But they struggle to score goals, like I said. I mean, Owen Beckner's a decent player. He's got 19 points to lead the team this season. He had 27, I believe, to lead the team last year for them, which again tells you weren't able to get it's kind of like the Huskies offense last year. Weren't able to get a 30-point score. Yeah, Beckner led the team last year as well with those 27 points. So they struggle to score. Their goalies can be good, but can have an off performance as well. I just at home, I think this is a worse team than Miami. Obviously, we know what happened against the Red Hawks, but this really should be a sweeps weekend, and especially if Huskies have any plans on making a serious run here, it needs to happen. And again, with this roller coaster ride, I mean, am I confident at all in saying that? No. But I wasn't confident that they were going to get a sweep at Arizona State. So
that's true.
And maybe that kind of heightens the assignment. Like you have it's kind of like, this is what you need to do. Like, can you step up and sweep a team and make a statement at home by sweeping a team that you should, that's below you in the standings. It's not like Miami, who, Miami has been playing well. They came into that series a couple weeks ago on a hot streak. Can't say the same about CC. They're kind of limping into the series. They're a prime team to get beaten. So I would really like to see it. And again, I'm curious as to what the goaltending looks like for the Huskies this weekend, based on Shostak and Brursons. I really don't know who's going to play on Friday for the Huskies, but as we mentioned earlier, it's not like I'm less confident one or the other. I just like to see it. I'm kind of confident that we'll get a good performance in net either way. But seeing like if we've got, and like who are you going to, if Henricks isn't going to be your seventh defenseman, like who are you pairing him with? So I'd be interested to see that. And we just like to see like these lines that we saw this past weekend, keeping it simple, stacking up your best players in the top line, keeping road nerves together. That seemed to work. So let's expect to see that again this weekend and use that momentum that you got from the desert. Let's see a convincing performance this weekend. How about it?
Yep. No matter what happens, I think this weekend, I'm just happy that we're having a roller coaster of interesting things to talk about versus last season, where it was just absolutely brain dead. As far as Hendricks, I mean, I think you pair Hendricks with Wiley. I think that is, if he's healthy enough to go 100% and he's healthy enough to log 20 minutes, I think that's where you pair them and what you do there. I think this weekend is going to be key, coming down to special teams. St. Cloud's penalty kill hasn't been great, sitting at about 75 and 76%. And it's been there, pretty much, all season. Colorado College, 16% on the power play. Their penalty kill is even worse, at 74.5%. So, I mean, I'd be interested to see also, if I was better at my job, I would probably actually do the math and look to see what our home versus road power play percentage is. I'm just thinking of, there was one game earlier this year, I think, where we just dominated on the power play. But, using that extra ice, using the fat ice, that we're only going to have for this last season. But you kind of using that to our advantage, kind of stretch it out, maybe get some more of those Bernovic one-timers in, and we'll see what happens. But I think that's going to be key. And just playing just keep it simple. Just simple plays, especially from our defense, I think is going to go a long way against this team to get 6 points. And I don't often say it, and maybe I don't fully believe it, but I'm going to predict a 6-point weekend. I'm going to predict a full sweep here out of the Huskies. I think they're going to show up. I think they're going to take care of business. And I think, CC is kind of floundering right now. And I think we're hitting them at the right time. And I think we are going everyone back healthy. I think, if Hendricks is able to be a full go, I really like our chances.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that, but barring the men's team getting securing a home playoff spot, because the women's team plays before the men this weekend. They're also at home this weekend, and I believe they've already clinched that they cannot be in home ice position in the WCHA playoffs. If that holds, if neither team hosts the playoff series, this will be the last weekend of fat ice at the home. Pour one out, I suppose, for that. But I didn't realize that. Let's hope that's not happening.
Fireball?
Let's hope we got one more in the playoffs.
Yeah. For my college years, I would probably pour out a half bottle of SoCo. It's what I would do
in the Pepsi bottle.
Yes, exactly. That everyone could smell about 2 sections over. So
when you're talking about special teams, I think it was Schlossman who I think got it from someone else, but made the realization that the Gophers currently have the number 1 power play unit in the nation, as well as the worst penalty kill.
As well as
they're at
31%,
31% power play and 68.4 on the penalty kill. Yikes! I mean, that tracks for Motzko. Like Motzko never really had a great penalty kill, and his power play was always pretty good, but it was never at those kind of extremes.
I wonder, going back, I mean, what was Stonehill's penalty kill? From a few years ago, or Long Island's 60, what was it again? 64% penalty kill?
Oh, I don't remember. I think their strategy on the penalty kill was give up the goal so then the guy can get out of the box. That was their strategy. And that's how we can dispose of the penalty.
It's got to be historically bad. So
there's some bad. There's a lot of bad. Wisconsin's up there too with a top 5 power play, good power play, and bad penalty kill. There's a lot of extremes on special teams this year, and St. Cloud's kind of part of that group too. It is. I guess that is kind of indicative of that style of play in that conference.
I will have to say, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of Schadenfreude or whatnot, but I'm just not so much even Motzko or the Gophers or whatnot, but just something about, Leo Gruba being part of that defensive core and having a tough season kind of makes me smile a little bit. It's
hey, I take him over Josh Zinger. I'll say that, but
that's true.
Move on.
That's true. Let's pivot, or do you have a prediction?
I'm going. You seem to have.
Are you going
better
full bore too?
Vibe? Well, yes. I mean, like I said, I'm not very confident about that, but it needs to be done. So, and I think you even vibed correctly, the Miami results this year. You kind of pumped the brakes on 6-point weekends, and you were correct in both cases there. So I think that you've got the finger on the pulse correctly. So it's like you're the hot guy at the blackjack table. So I'm going next to you. And
you're following my bets.
Yep. I'm behind you on the wheel, or you're on the wheel. Is that the one? Yeah. I'm following your lead, and I'm going with you, and I'll say 6 points.
Oh, there we go. For what it's worth, St. Cloud right now, 19th in NPI, 16th in Cratch. So
they must have moved up one. I thought they were 20, but we do have the Beanpot results, so perhaps that moved up. That moved the rankings a little bit, because I swore I saw 20 when I checked this afternoon.
Miami.
All
is
right,
sitting
so
at
we're
20.
moving on up. We're moving on
There
up.
we go. See, even when we don't play, look at that. So, but it's so yeah, we're hovering around there. We're on the bad side of it, but again, being kind of where we're at right now, just a strong way to finish, I think, can go a long way, especially, taking care of teams we should against North Dakota, and then having a strong show, or taking care against teams we should, like Colorado College, and have a strong showing in North Dakota. I think that'll get us in that could go a long way. I mean, obviously it's a lot harder to move up now because we're going to have to kind of focus on teams, especially those CCHA teams that are a little bit higher. But yeah, Wisconsin has kind of been falling. I mean, even Denver right now is sitting at 11, which is a little bit surprising. But
yeah, and Duluth is not been playing very well, and that's the team that you're immediately chasing for that home ice. You got the same amount of games with them right now. Obviously, there's going to be a difference after this weekend, but you basically got to win one more game than Duluth, and if you do so, barring a tie, because that's the other thing, Duluth holds a tiebreaker. So you just got to, you can't tie them in points. You got to at least have one more. Check my math on that, if that's correct. But just have one more win than Duluth, and you should be, and you don't have the tiebreaker over Miami as well. You lost that tiebreaker, so you got to beat them on points cleanly. Yep. So, but if it's them in Duluth, like you get one more win than them, that will do the trick, most likely. And I think it's possible.
Let's pivot over to the women. We had the women and a tale of two games here for the women. I mean, obviously they're all a tale of two games, but 5-1 victory for the women on Friday with 5 different goal scorers. Minnesota, over the Minnesota State Mavericks. Just first period 21-7 on shots. Just absolutely dominating possession. They were aggressive. One stretch about 21 seconds between goals from Alice Oriole and Marie Moran. Sunderland had a highlight reel goal. Maria McKaylin gets up to 11 goals in her freshman campaign. We had Lily Erickson getting her first point with an assist, the second assist on that. So it was it was overall just kind of a dominating game. JoJo played well in net. Ended up with 31 saves. The Mankato kind of figured it out in the third period. St. Cloud State really played back, trying to preserve that one goal, or that trying to preserve the shutout as best they can, and let one in with about 5 minutes remaining. But they were outshot 15-3 in the third period. So little let off the gas a little bit there, but overall it was a great weekend, or a great game for the Huskies. And unfortunately that can't be said for Saturday's game. I was at Saturday's game, went with my son, and it was kind of a reversal. I thought Mankato was a lot more aggressive. They pressured a lot more. And I think that really confused our defense. Now you look, JoJo let in 3 goals on 34 shots. And it's I don't know if I'd look at, those goals and really falter too much for him, because I really thought uncharacteristically our defense really made some bad plays, especially in that stretch in the second period, right off the hop for the first 3 minutes or so. I thought the Huskies looked all out of sorts and didn't look good. Haley Hansen for the Mavericks played both games. I thought she played very well on Friday, or I'm sorry, on Saturday, to able to get the win. But one thing that I was really kind of surprised with was Mankato on or on draws. It felt like every draw they were having possession of the puck shortly afterwards all weekend. But overall, the big news that kind of when you were looking at the score sheet or the line chart on Saturday, you see that Sunderland is not on the line chart. I went back and actually watched the first part to hear if there was something about why Sunderland didn't play. And Nick Maxon on BTN Plus said that it was just an upper body injury that was sustained in Friday's game. So it was, you really kind of saw what Sunderland does for this team. Seeing her on the ice and how much the Huskies dominated there on Friday. They got a couple of lucky bounces as well. I'm not going to say that it was just an onslaught. Some of the goals, Marie Moran's, I think, was more of a centering kind of a play that was able to kind of ricochet in. But, Sunderland, who is, I think, safe to say the team's best player, far and away, is best offensive player, not on the ice, and you see that shows right away in the play. So, a little bit of a bummer to see that. I hope it's not a long-term injury. They didn't upload a press conference on SCSU Huskies Twitter account, their YouTube page, which usually has the post-game press conferences. So I don't know. I don't know what the extent of the injury or how long that is, but we got big series against Bemidji State coming up here, and that's a series where you need to take all points against the basement of the WCHA. And that basement is getting a lot fewer teams in it right now. So it's pretty much just Bemidji, and that's it. Where, it used to be more of Mankato and St. Thomas, and that's not the case anymore. So it was overall, it was great to see Friday's performance, and it was lackluster to kind of see the effort that came out on Saturdays.
Yeah, and we've seen this a little too often for my liking this year. I do think that the Friday game, you got some lucky bounces in that game. The 5-1 score it doesn't maybe tell the whole story. I think they were beneficiaries of some good puck luck, and a couple of those goals. I mean, the Sunderland goal of the 3 in the first period, I thought the Sunderland goal was like the only kind of impressive goal among the others.
The Sunderland goal was really nice. I think
it definitely made up for the other two in terms of quality. That's for sure. But it was just nice to see that, because so many times this year you wish that they had played better, deserved a little bit more for the amount of puck luck going against them. So it was nice to see that coming back the other side in that game. And a nice win for them. Now, coming back and talked all about, stretching this team's talent so thin with this Olympics that are going on concurrently to the Husky season. I was a little disappointed to see that Finland's first game was postponed due to a virus going around. So so now it's like Kariko perhaps is going to be affected by that. So frustrating, but then you throw the absence of Sunderland into that mix, the already strained roster situation that we have here. We thought we got a bit of a break from at least the St. Cloud fans' perspective that Sunderland wasn't going to be playing for Team Finland. But I'm sure for her, it was not as much of she wouldn't probably classify that as a good break. Well, at least from the Huskies' perspective, that was going to be key for trying to mitigate losses during this stretch, and having her back is hugely important for this team. And then to have her out based on injury in that Saturday game, just another gut punch. Now, they played pretty well in that first period on Saturday. I'll give them that. Like, they didn't look terribly out performed. by the Mavericks. But just you look at that center position without Sunderland, moving Farrell to the center position. I think she's taken some time here and there at center over her Husky career, but I don't know about like entire games at the center position. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I know that she's taken draws here and there, but I can't think of her taking, especially first line center duties. I can't. I'm sure that hasn't happened in her Husky career yet. For Saturday, like the most experienced center, like player who has played center the most at the NCAA level would have been Peyton Holloway. Moran is still sort of, she's always been kind of in flux between defense and forward and kind of plugging into the forward position and at center based on this Olympic shortage of players that you have. Maya Kruger's, has had a difficult season, and fourth liner, her kind of role is limited too. So, I mean, you're just kind of losing a lot in the middle there if someone's not available. So it's just yet another challenge for this team to try to overcome. And Mankato's not like the best team in the world, but they're a good enough team to take advantage of like a St. Cloud team that's, down with Sunderland's injury, 5 key players for that Saturday game. So a disappointing result, certainly, because again, we're talking about like men's teams kind of jockeying for position in the NCHC. St. Cloud's not in the running, as I mentioned. They are already officially eliminated for home ice contention in the WCHA, even if they win out, and that would include a sweep on the road at Wisconsin. But even if they do that, they would not finish in 4th place. But you still have the jockeying for position for 5th place, which I think is a big prize because it avoids playing one of the 3 of the holy triumvirate of the WCHA, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Minnesota, which the Huskies have not beaten any of those teams this year yet, just the one tie in results against those teams this year. Duluth, on the other hand, is struggling in the second half. And their only wins in the second half coming this past weekend against the Bemidji State team that St. Cloud will face next. And St. Cloud was able to get a 5-point weekend in Amsoil just recently. So putting yourself in the best position to make a run in the WCHA playoffs means finishing 5th. Now, because of the schedule here, I think it's kind of in St. Cloud's control here. But that necessitates a 6-point weekend against Bemidji this coming weekend, which we will preview. I know that we tend to blend the recap and the preview together, and I don't want to do that because we need to stick with the recap first and do a POW. But to wrap up like the Mankato series, again, it's one of those things. I agree that I don't think that Schobach played poorly. Saturday, it was a difficult assignment, again, playing even more shorthanded than we thought coming into this weekend. And kept the team in the game as long as that 2-goal spurt in the second period against Mankato was the turning point in that game. They took the 1-0 lead in the first, but getting kind of the double jeopardy there early in the second period was a big momentum swing. Just frustrating. But Mankato played a good road game, was able to win. Just frustrating that the Huskies seem to have this where they looking good. They've had that one weekend in Duluth recently where kind of capped off, both wins on the weekend. One of them was in a shootout, of course, but that one was one of those rare weekends, especially in WCHA play, where we've been able to have a complete weekend. So many of these, though, having thinking about like the Bemidji game earlier or the Bemidji series up in Bemidji earlier this season, where winning on Friday, but then a tough loss on Saturday. Obviously, not even getting any points out of Mankato on Saturday was frustrating, and so it just kind of leaves a sour taste. But with how many losses that they're dealing with just when they're on their roster, it's just another sign that any further unavailability to any of these players on the current roster, the ones that we're not talking about the Olympics players, but any further losses, it doesn't even need to be a player of Sunderland's caliber. The margin just not there for this team to be able to weather that loss. And then when you add into the fact, oh yeah, that's right, it is actually your best player, like literally your best player on the roster that's unavailable on Saturday. It's just it's a little much, a little too much to overcome. But as we'll preview, I think that this team still is in decent position to make that run for 5th place, and we'll get into that. But how about we do a POW first?
My POW is going to be maybe a little unconventional, and maybe it's not fair.
I've got an unconventional one too. So
right,
maybe we've got the same one.
Do we? Do you want to say it on 3?
Okay.
I don't know if we can. Sometimes
I don't know. We didn't plan this, so let's see. It keeps us honest, though. We can't change our vote, so let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Sunderland.
City Jackal.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have the same one. At least I'm glad we didn't match.
Sunderland had a goal and assist, and I think she didn't play on Saturday, which is why it's unconventional for someone.
It is.
But I think that's what makes it like so key that this team looks so different with her on the ice versus with her out. This is a clear, I think, look at how big of an impact player she is night in and night out. And that's why, like, for my player of the weekend, and I didn't think there were too many really good candidates. I'm interested to hear why you say Jackal. I don't necessarily disagree with it. The other one I was thinking of is I thought Peyton Holloway. I thought she played well both games. But just when I look at that of what she brings to the table, who she is as a player, and how much she means to this team, I think this is a clear weekend of how important Sunderland is to this roster.
I mean, it's a good pick, even with just the one game played. I'm not going to really argue with that too much. Jackal, I should have just stopped with Sydney because that would have still left it in suspense because we've got so many Sydneys on this roster. But I'm going with Jackal, and I mentioned her last weekend against St. Thomas. I thought her performance there was pretty good. Kind of set up one of the at that point was the go-ahead goal in the Friday game. They ended up coughing that one up in overtime. But scores a goal on Friday. Again, not a highlight reel goal, kind of like the others that we're mentioning. But I appreciate the kind of grit, sandpaper she brings to the team. She's never going to have like the highlight reel type performances, but I think especially from a, playmaking ability and at least like grinding up in the corners, creating a physical presence. I think she's a valuable player that sort of skates under the radar. So it's more of a Pacino, which we've coined that term for more of a career / season long performance rather than just the one weekend sample size. It's again, she's never going to be like top 6 player on this team, and she's never going to grab the headlines that the Sunderlands and Caricos and others are going to garner. But I do think she's a important cog on this team, a hard worker. I can tell whenever she's on the ice because she gives a good effort, and that doesn't go unappreciated. And so in a weekend that wasn't one that a lot of performances kind of sprung immediately to mind, I thought it was a good occasion to give a tip of the cap to Sydney Jackal.
Yeah, she makes a lot of really good under the radar plays. And
a lot of it doesn't go in the box score.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So let's hop into Bemidji then. Only 6 wins so far on the season. One of them overtime win against St. Cloud State, where they put up 6 on us. And that one even had to be a come from behind when we were down 4-1 into the third period. We even had to lead before we coughed it up. That's one of those games that, you look back and definitely slipped through our fingers. But, that was the, most goals, their high water mark for goals on the season was the 6 that they put up in that overtime victory. Second half of the season, they had 2-1 victory against Minnesota State, and then 3-1 victory over Merrimack on July 3rd. But those were their only 2 wins in the second half of the season so far. So they're a team that is really looking at Morgan Smith, Haley Armstrong are kind of their 2 point producers on the team. And 12 goals for Morgan Smith. Haley Armstrong has 13 goals. So those are the 2 that you're really going to have to watch out for. But, I think taking control of the game, really pressuring this Bemidji team, this is a weekend where you got to step up and put 6 points on the board. This is your golden chance, and again against a squad that is just hasn't had a wonderful season. So you really gotta take advantage.
Sure do. Offensively challenged, as you mentioned, basically just have that one top line. Issa Gettle would have been the other member of that. Gettle scored the tying goal in that 6-5 game. Armstrong with the winner. Gettle factoring in and getting an assist in that overtime winner in that November game in Bemidji, which was the one where St. Cloud had the 3-goal comeback in the third period, took the late lead, failed to clear the puck out on a couple of occasions before that tying goal was scored. It would have been just one of those like huge emotional swings. It was an emotional swing. It would have been a positive emotional swing had the Huskies been able to hold on for that come from behind win, but was not to be. That was a tough loss. But that Gettle, Smith, Armstrong mainly been playing together as a line this year is a decent line. Point production wise, it's more productive than any line that St. Cloud has. So, factor that into it. Clearly on their defensive structure and goaltending, those numbers are going to look pretty ugly. It's talking about like standings and seeing, looking ahead to how the conference standings are going to shake out. It's seemingly, with the Huskies hosting Bemidji this weekend, that gives you a really good chance to get 6 points. And if you want any chance of getting 5th place, 6 points needs to happen this weekend. And I'm looking at St. Thomas, who's 2 points ahead of the Huskies, and then Mankato is 3 points ahead. Their weekends this weekend, Mankato hosts Wisconsin, who, yes, is decimated by the Olympics as well. St. Thomas plays up in Duluth. They've got some Olympic losses among their roster. But those are 2 series in which those 2 teams, the teams that St. Cloud is in the immediate competition with, jockeying in the standings with, Mankato and St. Thomas, they're going to be behind the 8 ball underdogs in those 2 series. So if they get swept that weekend, each of those teams get swept. Those 2 teams, Mankato and St. Thomas, play each other the final series of the season, whereas St. Cloud finishes their season, as I mentioned, at Laban against the Badgers. So, if what I'm thinking is St. Cloud sweeps this weekend and then gets swept at Wisconsin, if Mankato and St. Thomas both get swept this weekend and then they split that final weekend series, which is in Mankato, or excuse me, it's at St. Thomas. Let me just double check that. I was just looking and I had the whole bit. It's at St. Thomas. So if they split that weekend, Mankato and St. Thomas split that final weekend, and St. Cloud sweeps this weekend, that would put them into a tie with Mankato. And because they've won more regulation games against Mankato this year, St. Cloud I'm talking about, they would win the tiebreaker. So that's all to say that getting fifth place, hopping these two teams immediately ahead of them, is certainly in the realm of possibility. Now, that only happens if they sweep Bemidji and need all 6 points. Because, again, that's assuming they're not going to get any points in Levon. And that also assumes that St. Thomas and Mankato will get swept this coming weekend, which crazier things have happened, especially Duluth, who's not playing very well right now. So it's definitely in their control. Maybe not, they're not in the driver's seat, but they put 6 points on the board this weekend. They might jump those teams this weekend, and they just might just need to hold on for the final weekend of the regular season to secure that fifth, not the final home ice position. I'm getting myself mixed up with the men's team right now, but they can secure fifth place by hanging on with the other results that Mankato and St. Thomas are involved in. It's possible. Now, like the men's team, am I confident about that? Not necessarily, but I'm more confident that they can do the job against Bemidji this weekend, and I would just like to see that happen. So you're confident that the men's team is going to sweep CC, women playing a lesser opponent, I'd say, in Bemidji. Are you as confident, more confident, the same amount of confidence that the women's team will deliver with the 6 point weekend this weekend?
I am way more confident that we'll sweep Bemidji. Now, it's, the 6-5 game that we lost. It was a situation where JoJo started net that game, gave up 3 goals on 11 shots. And, so this is going to be a little bit of a redemption for her at home. And so I think we'll get some matchup changes. But at the same time, I got a question about Sunderland's injury.
Yeah.
Now, what the extent is, if it's, a day-to-day thing, or if we're going to hold her out this weekend. I think maybe that changes some things. I mean, we saw how much of a different team it is. Now, I do think, obviously, Mankato's a lot better than Bemidji. So it's going to be, that's going to be interesting to see. And that's going to be a tough dynamic for us to overcome if Sunderland is going to be out, because like I said, our center depth isn't exactly there. But maybe this is a time to kind of tinker with a couple things. Like I said, put, now Moran and McKeelanen, they did have some points over this last weekend, but maybe put McKeelanen with Holloway and see what you have there. Somebody with a little bit of a more physical, tougher, Holloway presence, with McKeelanen, who is able to kind of use her speed and get open and create shots and chances. I think that's an interesting dynamic worth exploring. Shuffling lines right now, probably not the best, but at the same time, it's late in the season. You got to do something when injuries occur. So now, if Sunderland's a full go, I don't think there's any reason why 6 points would be out of the question. It's got to be on the table if Sunderland's okay to go.
Yeah, let's see it. Anything less is going to be a disappointment, even if Sunderland, regardless of her health. I think that 6 points, anything less than that is it's going to leave it. It's going to be another one of these weekends where it's like you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And we've had too many of those, especially recently. And so, yeah, let's do the job and put yourself in the best position. Put yourself into 5th place going into that final weekend, which at that point you're not required to get any points out of Wisconsin. Still got to sweat out. You got to be scoreboard watching still, but puts you in the best position to set you up with the most favorable playoff matchup, which Duluth is way more favorable than the other 3 options. So Yeah, let's get it done. I mean, obviously this team can't look forward to licking their chops, as it were, about a Duluth matchup if they can't finish the job against Bemidji. So prove that you can handle a lesser opponent at home. And because they are officially eliminated from home ice in WCHA, this will definitely be their last games on the fat ice. Let's go out with a bang on the fat ice for the Herb on the women's side.
And they also had senior day when I was there on Saturday. So again, the change of senior day not being on the last home day is
maybe they feel like, is it Valentine's Day is a big conflict? They feel like that's going to be just an inconvenient day for senior day. I don't know.
City Wolf did tweet out the Mrs. Hockey commitments. So the 10 semifinalists for the 2026 Mrs. Hockey for Minnesota, and there are 2 St. Cloud State commits that are up for Mrs. Hockey. So that's kind of interesting, or interesting, no, kind of exciting. Madeline Lee from White Bear Lake, and Jasmine Hovda from Roseau. So
and that Roseau connection, as we've seen with Remick and Erickson, and played with this Hovda previously. So it's, that was an area that Adulski really keyed on for recruiting. So getting that other chip from the northern region is especially intriguing. Clarification: it's Ms. Hockey, right? Mrs. Hockey would imply. I believe that's still the married title, but
that's true.
The professional / well, it's not even unmarried. It's more the professional. You go with the Ms. MS.
Yes.
But either way the honorific goes. Congrats to all 10, but especially the 2 that will be wearing Cardinal black pretty soon.
No, screw the other 8. Nope, just St. Cloud. Don't care about anyone else.
Yeah, so, just the Huskies.
Yeah. There's Sydney Bernovic from River Cities is committed to Assumption College.
River Cities?
Yeah, I do.
This
not
is
know
a co-op that
is.
I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, I am not familiar with it either.
Are we assuming that that's an Austin relative?
I mean, Bernovic is. I
not
would
exactly
assume
Smith.
a rare last name.
Correct. The Bernovics should have been from Burnsville. They're not, but they should have been.
Co-op representing Champlain Park and Coon Rapids.
Okay.
Formerly CPCR, which I think their youth hockey still goes by CPCR, as Clara is on the Riverblades, which is Central Minnesota, which is St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, and Sartell for their U6s up to U12s, I think it goes to. So before it splits off into high school. Maybe
Very
U15s.
Nice.
I think U15s as well. Anyway, that goes into so much with the girls' minor, or all of those levels that they have that we try to dissect in a summer show. There's a lot of different leagues and everything to go through.
Yes.
So let's hop to questions. I had a couple here. One from resident Duluth fan, Dan Jacobson. I believe he had a question just about the Olympics. Are you enjoying the Olympics so far? So that's how UMD season is going, I think, for him. Yeah,
as I mentioned,
I think
you're taking this question because I'm still waiting to get my first Olympics fix this year. It's overdue. So how are you enjoying them?
Ooh, I mean, my wife and I sat and watched the team figure skating competition. That was exciting. Ilya Melnin ended up pulling it off in a little bit of a messier program than I'm used to, but able to win the team gold for Team USA. But I think the big event coming tomorrow, which will be today for people listening and probably have already happened, is the mixed doubles curling event where USA is going for gold. So that's going to be kind of a barn burner matchup there. And then obviously, I think the women's games have all been really fun and interesting to watch. USA Canada is going to be coming up soon, or I think also on Tuesday. So that'll result, but obviously it's still preliminary round, so it's not for everything yet. But I talked about it with Jake a little bit on that podcast, but I just worry for how much we've been dominating Canada that they're gonna pull something out of and hurt me again. So but that's a lot of what I've watched. The kids not seem to take to the Olympics nearly as much as they did the Summer Olympics. I thought some of the big air skiing events would be kind of interesting, but I've been loving the drone footage from like bobsled and skiing. They've got the drones like going right behind the athletes. That's been a lot of fun to watch. Little dizzying, but still pretty fun.
Did I read correctly that for the women's hockey, the pools are not split randomly, but they're kind of tiered into like the top tier and the bottom tier? Do you know why they did that?
Because of all of the blowouts, that were happening in, you would get USA versus France, and
I was surprised to see that. It looks
Italy.
like I figured that Italy would be like the worst team just because they get the automatic bid. They didn't have to qualify for it, but because they're the hosts of the automatic bid. But it looks like they beat France, correct? So it looks like France seems to be the true doormat of the Olympics. Sorry, France. Your bourbon was really good, right? Or was it a bourbon? Or I know their whiskey was highly ranked by you, but they're not exactly. It was a rye, but it was not. Yep. They're not exactly climbing up the standings in the Olympic hockey standings, as it were. But okay, that actually makes more sense. But
yeah, exactly.
So
and I think it works because granted, USA and Canada are still really out shooting. But 3-1, 4-1, 5-1 results are a lot more easily appealing than 14-0, which is probably what would happen.
Is it 6 and 6? Is that the two tiers? 6 teams each? Because then, it would be like all the top tiers going to make it to the next round, and then top two.
All the top tiers automatically make it to the knockout rounds.
Okay, yeah, that probably is a better way to do it. If it is going to be a 12-team tournament, it probably is the best way to do it, at least on the women's side. When the parity's not quite at the men's side quite yet, but so that was the one question I had, but that makes complete sense. And yes, every Olympics I'm always enamored. I'm surprised at how entranced I am by the curling action, and so I should be reintroducing myself to that as well.
Mixed doubles,
like a good opportunity to do so. The mixed doubles.
Yep. So and then one more, Eric Zamora sent me a text. Does getting swept by Miami but sweeping ASU have any difference other than the combination of going 2-2 in regulation over those 4 games? Only thing I could think of is maybe losing to the team you play 4 times strengthens your strength of schedule. Over beating them, you only play twice. Over beating the team you only play twice. So did the Huskies come up with the best combination of essentially splitting the last 2 weekends? There's a lot of layers to that question, and that's a good point. What do you think would be essentially the best outcome of going, if you're going to go 2-2 against Miami and Arizona State, How would you like that split up?
And again, there's a math element that I'm not qualified to speak authoritatively on it.
McMahon
But just
might.
from the NPI perspective, saying nothing about the quality of the opponent, the road wins count as 1.2 of a win versus a home win counts as 0.8. So if you add up 0.8, your two home wins would be 1.6. The two road wins, 1.2 plus 1.2 is 2.4. Essentially, the two road wins count the same as 3 home wins. So if you split it, if you split both of those series, you get 1.8 and then a 1.2 result. That's 2 flat. So in that, again, before factoring in the quality of the opponent, 2 road wins are the best possible outcome if you're going to split these 4 games, 2 at home, 2 on the road. Are you still with me? Because I probably sound very confusing right now. But
no, I'm with you.
The fact that Miami is, 10, 15 spots, something like that, higher than Arizona State in NPI, that lessens the effect of winning the road games than the home games. But I would, again, my amateur / idiot math brain would probably say that it might have been better than if you would have just split the home series and split the road series. But probably nominal. So I would have rather taken 3 out of the 4 games. I'll put it that way. But the fact that they're road wins, and I do think this is a flaw that they should. I don't think that.
Not if you're Mayotte.
I think the road win is overly inflated, and I think it should be it may be a 10% boost instead of a 20% boost. A road win versus a home win. But that's, again, a discussion for a different day. But so because they were on the road, those do count a little bit more. So it's not a terrible outcome. And it might be the most ideal in that situation, in that hypothetical.
So I was able to hop in the customizer because, the good thing is now
there you
go. We're able to kind of play around with it.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you did joke that I'd rather take 3 of 4. So I did switch Friday's game over to a St. Cloud State win, and that's the game where we 37 shots.
Doesn't matter which one you pick. It all goes in the
It doesn't
math
matter, but I decided in my head I was going to go with the one that was more plausible that we could have won. That boosts us up to 16. So that is quite a jump. Inverting all of it. So if we sweep Miami and then lose on the road to Arizona State, we stay the same. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. No, we actually dropped to 20 at that point. So we drop 1 spot.
What is the raw NPI number? Do you have that?
Oh, shoot. I did not write that down. I just wrote the quality win bonus. So, that's my hold music. All right. So what am I looking at?
The raw NPI number, the leftmost number.
If we switch the results altogether, right?
To a sweep at home and getting swept on the road.
53.01.
So that's a drop of what they currently have is 53.07. So it's a drop of 0.06. So now do the both of them are a split result.
And I should read up more what MPI is because I don't know what that's referencing. All right. Split for both of them. 53.06.
All right. So I was right. So the 2 road wins is the most. It gives you 0.01 more of an advantage. Would they go to state at 19th? Or would that have been changed at all?
Nope.
Okay.
State
all
at
right.
19th.
So my idiot math, actually, my idiot hunch turned out to equal hard math.
There you go.
So my teachers in school would be shocked. But I was right. But again, I'm also right that the 3 out of 4 that's not exactly a meatloaf song. 3 out of 4 ain't bad, but 3 out of 4 is better than 2 out of 2 or 2 and 2. But that was the 6th verse of that song that was cut.
Yeah, that was
left on the cutting room
floor.
floor.
That was verses 6 and 7, I think.
Correct.
Yeah, that switch, 53.83, and that would have us leapfrog Minnesota State, Augustana, and Michigan Tech.
All those CCHA teams.
All the CCHA teams. So something really flipped.
It shows too that it's, it's possible to jump the gaps between those 3 teams that you mentioned, 3 teams that are immediately above the Huskies. Doesn't take much. 2 wins this weekend, and if those teams, split their weekends, you could make a move this weekend as well. The way to do it, this doesn't take math. The way to move up the NPI is to win a lot of games.
Turns out
splitting a weekend
isn't
going to be doing that. But you win 2 games this weekend, that puts you in the best opportunity to move up in the standings. Shocker, I know.
All you have to do is win the next game. That's
right.
The most important thing. So.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this too I mentioned this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, in that the women's shootout win at Duluth and the men's win over Duluth, the 6-0 win. That was the first time this entire year that both the women and the men Huskies teams won on the same day. But that was even asterisks because of the shootout win. Well, Friday we actually had the first time we had 2 3-point victories for both the men and the women on the same night. So it seems like we're finally getting together. We're getting our horses riding in the straight line and moving on up,
back.
Forward momentum at the right time of the year. We're winning multiple games on the same day. We're back, baby.
There we go. So that about does her this episode of the Huskies Hockey Podcast. I am Weldie. You can reach me at More Clappers, MOAR, More Clappers. Andrew, you can reach him at
Andrew SCSUHHP. Also email the show, Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. Wasn't able to do an ice shavings post this weekend, but you can check out Cloud Coverage hockey.substack.com. Hopefully I'll get one out this weekend. You can look up some more ramblings that in written form, not in verbal form, but you can read up on those at your leisure as well.
If you want, you can offer me some money. I can read it like an audiobook. I can try to pull out my best Andy Serkis and read it in my Tolkien impression. Your ice shavings.
That will be on our yet to be released Patreon page. Stay tuned for more details.
Right. Stay tuned. You'll be staying tuned for a while.
Correct.
Thank you again, everybody, for listening. And until next time, go Huskies.
Woo!